Welcome everyone to Grape Finance Weekly AMA. I'm Nikki or Fionda as your host, like normal, and of course LB is here. Welcome, LB.
Hey everyone, good to be here as always.
And I also see that Dave is here and he's risen his hand. So welcome, Dave. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Dave,
I,
how you going?
good. I got to learn how to unraise my hand. There it is.
Well, welcome. That means that we've got two people who can answer questions. You guys just let me know which one of you wants to answer the question, right? Um, Either is fine with me. Let's get back to the questions. Yes. So DJ and crypto actually has a question that could be answered by all of us. This question is for someone interested in getting into the DeFi or crypto space, what path would you recommend for someone to get into the space without any programming or coding background? Well, this is one of the few questions I think that you, LB, are the least qualified to answer, right? Because you have a coding background. So Dave, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So I think being a designer obviously sort of gave me a, a way in to sort of work in this space without coding. I still can't code. Um, so that's been going well, but I think you want to find something that you can do and you're good at and find a way to sort of mold it into that space. Whether you're a writer, you can help write white papers or things like that. So you just got to know what you're good at and try to leverage that.
Yeah, I fully agree myself. Like this space is so young that whenever someone is good at something, we're just, we're happy to have you if you're good. Like, I've not been asked after my credentials before I started, right? I've just been, that you, LB, you looked at what I wrote and you thought it was good. So I got a position, right? That's how it
Yeah,
works.
simple as that, yeah.
Yeah, and so I noticed that I kind of have a strong grasp of tokenomics, even though I've never really done any formal economic education. But it's just that I get that sort of thing, and I get strategy. I'm big on role playing, and that has a lot of rules to deal with, like the tabletop role playing. And so I leverage that. And I'm a good writer, so I leverage that. And I know how to present, so I use that. These are all things that you can simply use in the DeFi space, I would say, without being able to code. Do you have anything to add, LB?
Yeah, I guess I think this space is kind of like it's presented as really techy and really you have to be really tech focused. But in reality, it's kind of like you're almost running a business in a sense. And in a business, you have a lot of different roles. So it's, you really any role that there's roles with community, partnerships, marketing, writing, and then you have the coding as well. So it's like it's the coding is just one part of it, really. It's it's the same as literally any other industry, really. You have a business that has that needs to run. It needs multiple different things, multiple different roles within that business to function. That's really the same thing with DeFi. So in reality, it's whatever you like doing and whatever you're good at, as both you have said, is what you should focus on. Because
Yeah, exactly.
there's going to be a role for that in this space, no matter what.
Yeah, most definitely. You just need to apply it creatively, and then you can go. You're good to go.
Yeah.
All right, then we move on to the next one. Blizzard. Yeah, you already answered this question. Anyway, Blizzard did well because Blizzard is actually part of our mod team as well because of this enthusiasm that he showed. He's a great guy, by the way. I've had a video call with him. It's very nice. Then we move on to the next one. BIM. Hey, I haven't read that one in a long time. They're kind of an OG, I think. They've been with us for quite a while. Let me give them the OG role. BIM, you're getting the OG role because I've seen you for a long time. Anyway, you're green now. The Grape Finance docs say, using our initial Grape nodes as a prototype implementation, we intend to implement several more node pools in the near future to multiply the benefits for our protocol. Any information about these nodes yet? Well, LB, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we did add the wide nodes shortly after, like a week after, and that was one on the list. And then the LP nodes was another one, and we kind of haven't added them because they've like the goal of it was, let's have a way to essentially, have the bonding in a way where, because the goal of bonding really is to get protocol liquidity. And this is, the nodes are kind of a way to do the same thing in the end, like achieve the same goal of getting protocol and liquidity through the treasury cut of them. So that's kind of what's happened, in that the nodes themselves increase the demand of Grape, which then pushed the price up, but then also made the protocol itself more credible, because the price is above the peg, the TVL is growing, people like it, and then they come to the farm as well to grow the LP, and that LP grew quite substantially over the last month, the main LP. And then with the wine nodes, I have the DAO used a lot of that treasury cut to essentially zap into the wine MIM LP and create its own protocol owned liquidity just through that treasury cut there. So it's already achieved the goal. It would actually achieve a couple goals. One of the goals was, to get protocol owned liquidity, and that actually achieved that. So that's why we didn't really implement the LP nodes, so to say, as yet. But in coming up soon, we have an opportunity with Swapsicle, new decks on AVAX that have pushed their launch a little bit forward due to the market. It's been a little bit crazy this week, so it's probably good. And we'll have another LP there, and they won't shut off our routing, which will be good as well. And we'll have an LP node for that, so there will be like a way to not dilute the farms, not dilute the rewards in the farms in the beginning, but also incentivize LP growth on Swapsicle. So, and then we'll also, the protocol will get protocol and liquidity directly in LP, so it doesn't have to zap in or anything like that. So that LP node will be coming whenever they launch, which should be in the next week or two, depending on the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. And for anyone who has questions about Swapsicle or anything they wish to know about Swapsicle, Swapsicle actually has their own channel within our chat. It's called Swapsicle under partners, and the people from Swapsicle have their own color, which I think is it's a dark green, and they're there to answer questions that come up in that channel. So feel free to ask them anything you'd like to know from their end. Let me get back to the questions. All right, this is a big one. Barrack DeFi asks, do you have opinions or thoughts on the Luna/UST tragedy? I feel bad for all Luna holders. Well, don't we all? Yeah. Yeah, what
that's
opinions or
question,
thoughts
yeah.
do we have on that? I think all three of us can answer that because it's just an ask me anything, right? So who wants to start? Do you want to start, LB? Like what your questions and opinions are?
I guess the it comes back to the whole thing of DeFi being an experiment, in that it's, you're really taking a risk on every thing that you buy here. Even USDC, all right, is, it's backed by a company, sure, but that's the company that has to maintain US dollar reserves. And then you're taking on smart contract risk, and then you're taking on network risk. So, whichever network it's hosted on, whichever network that you have it on, and then the smart contract of that, and then the company that maintains that. So, I think people don't realize that this is like, it's a very experimental industry, very new, extremely new. And I think a lot of people also didn't realize that UST and Lunar and all that had not been around for that long. I think I said before that they've really not been around for that long. Like, they haven't
September,
lasted
right?
yeah, I think it's like really recent. In DeFi, it's kind of like, oh, if it's 6 months, it's a long time. It's like it's going to be around forever. But in reality, that's just not how it works. I remember in 2017, you had like, it doesn't matter as well how big it is either. It doesn't, like, it literally doesn't matter how big it is. It just makes the collapse even worse. You can look at Lehman Brothers in 2008. That was over 100 years old as an investment bank, and they collapsed they went bankrupt. And there's a 100-year-old company. And they were obviously worth billions. It's just reiterating the fact that just because something's big, it doesn't mean it can't fail. And especially in crypto, when everything is so new and experimental, you need to diversify your risk. In other words, you need to spread your risk, is the main point. You can't have everything in one thing just because it's a stable coin, which doesn't really mean anything, because, you go back 5 years ago, well, originally the only stable coin that existed was USDT, and the rest didn't exist. So the main point is that you in crypto is really experimental. So you need to, like, diversify your risk, and you need to actually go and understand the risk that you're taking on. A lot of people don't understand you're taking on multiple levels of risk. That, if the return isn't high enough, it doesn't really make sense. The risk reward doesn't really make sense a lot of the time. You as I said, you're taking on the risk. Stable coin, like even USDC, you're taking on the risk of the network it's hosted on. So, AVAX or, BSC, whatever. That network could fail. Is definitely possible. They haven't been around for that long in the grand scheme of things. Like, a BSC network is just over a year old, just slightly, like a year and a few months old. It's not that old. Then you take on the risk of the smart contract itself on that platform and being vulnerable in some way. Who knows? And then you take on the risk of the company that manages that coin behind the scenes, and their funds, and how they manage those funds. And then as well, if you're going to go even further, you get to take on the risk of, well, you're holding US dollar, and we already know that it's inflating anyway, and that's managed by the Federal Reserve. So you're taking on that risk as well. So there's risk in everything. Nothing has no risk. You just have to manage. You just have to understand that, and you have to manage your risk to reward, basically.
Yeah. Dave, do you have anything to add to that?
I think that was good, and I just really want to highlight like how important diversity is. Like, when Grape is up, take a little bit of money out and spread that around, so that when we have events like we had last week where Grape was under peg and wine lost 50% or a bit more, you're not freaking out as bad because you have sort of stuff elsewhere. So whether
And you
it's
can also
UST or
buy
Grape,
it again.
yep, you can buy it again cheaper. Like, you can try and flip that. But just, yeah, doubling down on diversity is really important.
Yeah, to add to that, of course, we had this person in the group who lost $400, and that was not a millionaire losing for $100,000. But it was their entire life savings. And to put, I don't want to say this person is wrong because there was a lot of trust put into UST, but yeah, you really have to understand. I do agree, and you need to diversify. Like, even though UST seems very good, it's still developing, and it was developing. And the attack that happened actually didn't happen because of the original setup. It happened because of because how it changed, because of the new things, the new developments they were doing. And so you don't just have to understand it, you also need to keep on keep on your feet, like okay, what are the next movements in the place where I have invested my money, and do I agree with these movements, do I agree with what they're doing? um, for people who don't understand, there was a treasury started with actually owning Bitcoin and a lot of AVAX, and the attack that happened was because of initially because of a large Bitcoin loan, and that was used to make the attack with. Of course, all of this can be read up on. I'm not going to explain all of it here, but it's just good to know that. And on the human side of it, I would say have a good look at what money means for you. And if it means so much that you might connect your life to it, then you've overinvested. Because I've heard a lot of terrible news of people who've either suicided or contemplating suicide. And I just think that for something that is material, um, like money, which shouldn't be something too important in a person's life, then I think that if you've connected, yeah, we should be able to disconnect from the money we're investing. It should be a careful investment. It's what everyone constantly says, but it's apparently it's hard to listen to, right? It's hard to listen to. Don't invest more than you can lose, but please don't invest more than you can lose
Yeah.
in anything, even Anchor or anything else, or even Bitcoin, or even just euros. I mean, just diversify. Make sure that if one thing dies, that you can subsist on whatever's left.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so with that somber note, let's move on. Peric DeFi is also asking, I know we are still small and grape depacking at this scale makes sense to happen more. But as we grow bigger, what can we do to keep grape from depacking besides the community effort of holding on to our grape? That's a good question, really. Like, what kind of things can we implement?
Yeah, well, the idea is because we are algorithmic, it will fluctuate. Like it's the way it's designed to do it. Like it will happen like that. But it will be, in other words, you grow to a point where you have very large liquidity. It takes a lot more to move it, and if you build a utility for it, you can better manage the system itself can better maintain the peg because there'll be a stream of demand that's, I guess, more constant, and then the supply can essentially be around that to meet that demand essentially. Because right now we have, all right, well, the supply is kind of low. When we introduce something that increases demand of it, well, then we go to like two peg, which is quite high, obviously. But that's just because you have a large demand at a low liquidity and it's a new demand as well. So, you mature as a system, and once you mature as a system, the liquidity grows, which means price impact is lower. But then you also have a kind of more of a consistent demand that doesn't, spike the price or lower the price. So to say, with individual, because the demand is kind of kept relatively in line with the supply, which is the idea. Something that we may look into is, I don't know, collateralization, creating it through collateralization somehow, which is going to add, some more stability. But we are algorithmic at this point in time, and for the foreseeable future, we'll stay there. But I guess it's also kind of like the $1 billion question. How do you make a algorithmic stablecoin very stable? I don't think it's been done extremely to the point where it's the same as USDC, for instance, because that is fully collateralized. So it is a challenge to make something that would be, as an algorithmic stablecoin, to make something be the same as same instability as like a fully collateralized stablecoin that's not collateralized by cryptocurrencies either. But it's something that we'll work towards, and it's something that as we mature, we'll that's the kind of the idea is that we stabilize a bit.
Yeah. So and of course our future in having a grape and wine be a collateral to borrow against also will increase demand, and also probably will stabilize it in a way. That's at least if we design it well, which we plan to do. All right. Then Fizzle has been answering stuff. Mr. Yeah, he sometimes forgets which channel it is. That's okay. He's just very enthusiastic. Mr. Pikachu is asking one big question regarding lending. Will there be lending of grapes, and how do you prevent people leveraging to short grape, causing a domino effect? And shorting grape is really bad because people don't need to have skin in the game to profit from the ecosystem. This is of grave concern because tomb folks cannot survive shorting. Once the pack distance to a certain point gains distance to a certain point, people will give up and there will be mass exodus. Well, there's a very simple answer to that because I've asked that of LB. So LB, what was your extremely simple answer to that?
Well, I mean, you just don't allow borrowing of the asset for now until you have some sort of actual real stability behind it. But you would have to technically move to like a collateralized system, really. As seen by like UST, you could say. Algorithmic coins probably not the best to borrow, but in saying that, it's the idea of the lending system was more, anyway, you can use these tokens as collateral so that you don't have to sell them, and then you can borrow against them, borrow other coins against them, which makes sense. But then in other words, you wouldn't be able to short it because, through shorting it, you would borrow the asset using some other collateral and then basically just sell it all to crash the price, spiral it down, and then you can, pay back your loan much cheaper. We just don't allow borrowing of the two assets that we have because the liquidity is quite low anyway. So that would probably not be the best idea. But there's no reason to not allow collateral for it. so that you can borrow against them. Although we will have to manage liquidations very closely, because you don't want like a liquidation cascade, in other words. So, lending and borrowing is very risky, obviously, but you do want to make sure that the liquidations are managed well. Either they, I think the DAO takes a portion of that as well, takes that on the chin, basically it liquidates to itself. And then we'll keep the loan to value very low as well on those things, and keep them. We also want to use the yielding, like the actual farms, to the interest bearing tokens, so to say, rather than the actual tokens, so that there is some
repayment.
Yeah, self-repayment. Yeah. So, and as well, like there's not really a need to like borrow grape or wine anyway, because you can earn it for you can earn it in the farm and then in the winery. So it's kind of like you don't need to really borrow it.
Yeah, I guess that's just very clear. So we cannot be shorted if you're not allowed to borrow the tokens, and that's how we're going to start. So I hope that's been answered. And then there was the crypto preacher, and I'm not very sure what the actual question is, because they said there is a discussion about evolving the algorithmic portion of Frax's model from being collateral based to credit based, and via Fraxland loans of all kinds under or over collateralized RWAs will give Frax the agency to expand its algorithmic supply in a safer and sustainable manner. Is this a question? Do you wish to comment on it? Is there anything you'd like to say?
I mean, I do like Frax. They're like, you'd say a collateralized stablecoin, and they've held very
they're
well.
Hybrid. They're hybrid.
Yeah, they use part of their share as well. But they're really, you can see that they've held really well through this, as have DAI and MIM as well. So that's obviously really good to see. I like Frax. But I think this is a new feature, because I haven't heard about this, so I need to actually like look into what they're going to do there.
Yeah, it's a discussion about evolving. So I don't think the feature is already there yet. They're just talking about it. But I don't really know what that has to do with Grape Finance, so I'm just gonna move on, I guess.
Something to look into.
Yeah, always good. Like Saint has all right, Saint has another question on the Lunar Crash. Like overall thoughts on the market post Luna/USD crash. What do you feel other layer one coins and networks will learn from this? And what chain do you think is most poised to take that next step with utility and security? All right. So who's first?
Well, I guess I'll just like mention I guess in terms of other chains, I think Luna was, I think they'll come back anyway. I don't think they're gone forever. I just think that there's obviously trust lost in UST, so they're going to have to redo a new system. I think he was talking about doing a collateralized system now as a stable coin. So they're going to have to restart basically, but that's fine. They're with obviously in terms of L1, I think Phantom's taken a big hit as well, but I think AVAX is technically already at the forefront. It's already at the top, really. And then you obviously have Ethereum is probably the number one for the foreseeable future, just because it's the oldest, it's the biggest, has the most money on it. It's technically, it's very expensive on the main chain, but they are working on the layer twos, like the roll ups, which should be a new feature, and you should be implemented in the next year or two. I don't know how when Ethereum 2 is going to come out. Is has been saying that for literally like since they
Yes.
launched. Yeah,
Yeah.
literally since they launched, there was like, we're going to move to Ethereum, we're going to move to proof of stake. So I don't know how long that's going to take. It's irrelevant though. It's irrelevant because there'll be their layer twos are introducing I mean, protocols are introducing layer twos with optimistic roll ups, which technically no gas there anyway. But I think AVAX will continue to be up there anyway with its subnet feature, and I think US Terra was getting quite a big of a share, mainly from Anchor. To be honest, that was like where the vast majority of the money was. But we've also seen I think Tron Justin Sun is doing is planning on doing an algorithmic stablecoin as well. Basically the same as UST, and it's funny because it's a bit of a meme in the space with Justin Sun and Tron, just like doing whatever someone else has already done, and he's doing it so that I think you get like 30% or 40% APR or APY on your stablecoin, on his stablecoin, which is like USDN or something like that. So I don't know how that's gonna go, but after this week, it's probably not gonna go very well. And I think the Near network was doing their own one as well, their own algorithmic stablecoin. But see, all these people announced their algorithmic stablecoins, I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, when the UST hype was like probably the highest it's ever been. And I think they're going to reevaluate after this week how they, because it was planning to be a war of like, how much APY can we give to stablecoin stakers, basically. There's 20% on Anchor. Tron guy was saying 30 or 40%, and Near was going to do roughly the same as that. And so it's like that war to increase your stablecoin APY. But at the end of the day, how sustainable is that? And where are you getting those rewards from?
That's really funny to me because even before the attack, Terra Luna was already mentioning that, or at least their people were mentioning that the current APY was unsustainable, and it was just there to have a lot of people enter the system, and so the LFG just wanted to put a big a treasury there for the APY to sustain for a little bit more, but that doesn't mean that it was sustainable in any way doable for the long term. So what you're just explaining right now is a bit weird. But to me is weird. But what I hope personally, that I'm not saying I feel that the other networks will learn from this, but what I hope they will learn from this is maybe to not connect themselves so much to other layer ones. Like what you see is that everyone is connected to Bitcoin, and of course that's not all their fault. A lot of sexes are a lot of centralized exchanges. I mean, are um, combining these coins, like they're just putting up liquidity like Bitcoin AVAX or whatever, so that they can't really stop that. But I hope that as much as possible, these coins will try and create a way where they won't fall if the other ones fall. Like what we saw happening was that the only ones that really should have taken a hit were BTC and AVAX, but because of all the coins being in liquidity pools with those, everyone took a hit, and that's something that I feel, or I hope, that will be resolved in some way. And well, that what I also I had a second thing that I wanted to say. I'm forgetting it. Yeah, what I'm also hoping to see is yeah, just that people are, yeah, no, I don't know what I wanted to say, but I just hope for people to be a bit more careful and just don't shout off of the roofs things that you know beforehand are unsustainable just for the short
Mm.
term, um, just for the short term gain.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's just look at what we think we can actually manage, or at least manage for a long, long time.
Mm.
And what chain do I think is most poised to take that next step with utility and security? Well, I don't think the chain itself has been attacked. It's not the chain that was attacked, it was the tokenomics.
Mm.
So, yeah, there are some good chains. I really like the idea of Harmony One because they have scalability, which means that even if they grow really, really big, it won't increase gas. But they're very small, so there's not a lot on there. And Avex, I like, well, obviously. And there is a lot more that I like, but I don't think it has anything to do with the security, and the utility
Mm.
already is fine. So that's what I think about that. Dave, LB, anything to add to that, or are we good with this question?
Yeah, I mean, like overall market wise, it was interesting to see sort of like probably what looks like a false like bottom of the bear market. You know, um, we had that huge sell off on the Wednesday, Thursday, and then we had somewhat of a recovery, which was nice. But I think, I think Bitcoin's still kind of trending down. So everyone's just gotta keep holding and being patient through it. As far as all the chains and security and
Mm.
stuff, I agree with you, Nikki.
All
Yeah,
right,
well,
good.
I
Oh,
guess
sorry.
it's overdue for a relief bounce after you have like just weeks, like basically weeks of just down and sideways. But you have, I guess, the overall macro picture of the entire global market isn't really that great. You have inflation all-time high, which means that the central banks essentially, like, you have two options now. You either continue to print money, or which will just increase inflation, or you're getting to a point now where you kind of have to contract the economy by raising rates to kind of to hopefully push back on the inflation, which is the idea. But when you raise rates, that the markets don't like that. They don't like that, and that's what you're seeing in Bitcoin, and then technically normal markets as well. The S&P had a terrible week as well. It's not just Bitcoin. It's this. I think people want people want to find a market which is separate to every other market. But in reality, I don't know. In modern day, pretty much all markets, except for, like, you could say some commodities markets, are all tied together with global liquidity. And when you raise interest rates, that's going to lessen the amount of liquidity that's available to buy. So in other words, it's going to contract almost all prices of all assets. Yeah, that's kind of like the macro picture now is Fed raises interest rates to basically hold back on inflation. Markets don't like it. So that includes Bitcoin and then the whole crypto market.
Can't they just do like a buyback and burn?
And they should do it.
Should ask
They have
them.
to do it. Yeah, please.
The buyback and burn of USD, right? That's what should happen.
Well, it's technically supposed to be like taxes, I guess, but you know.
Well, I think
Who wants
there's
higher taxes?
there's that. What I think is annoying to me is that what you see is that the central banks are printing a lot of money, and thereby they're doling that out in a way, right? But only in the form of loans. So they're actually
Mm.
they're becoming richer because they're printing money. And then at some point, when you get to the point where we are now, where the money needs to actually be, well, there needs to be a certain deflation or at least a stop of the inflation. And then all of a sudden it's no longer their problem. It's not them becoming poorer. It's actually the
uh,
people who loan from them who need to pay from that for that. And I
yeah.
think that's kind of weird, but maybe that's because I'm raised in Europe where we're all kind of, so,
Mm.
semi-socialist. But
Well, I mean that's how it is, right? It's
yeah.
the what's his name? Cantillon effect. Whereas the people closest to the money printer gets money at the technically the best price because inflation hasn't hit that money yet because it's fresh money. They can use that money first. And then as that money goes through the economy, supply is inflated and then it devalues the money for the next person that holds it and the next person. But because they get it first, they get the best deal essentially.
Yeah, and then there's actually a current question asked by Space and Time. Let me see if we also no, I don't think they're. I can recognize them and give them the mic. But they have the question like for the Grape node, we have an APR of 659% right now, and is that a sustainable target in longer term, especially in view of the recent market trends?
Well, I mean the nodes themselves are based on. I mean, I guess the 659% doesn't really make sense because it's it's just like taking the daily and then moving it out to the year.
Mhm.
Whereas the maximum you can earn on any one node is 500%. So obviously, each node would you buy a node now, you're not going to earn 659% from it. You'll earn only 500% maximum from it. So in other words, it's well, the nodes themselves are based on node creation primarily. So you'd want uh you'd want continual node creation either through compounding, through the DAO, topping it up through the boardroom expansion, um, and essentially new node holders to come in. Um, it's like a nice passive income thing. I guess in terms of like APR, the farm APRs can sometimes be better than that on a yearly, and same as the winery APR sometimes. Um, but it's
Yeah.
all about it's all kind of the Toon Fork itself needs to be managed primarily through the community strategy,
Yeah.
holding together.
And I think also what's important in this question is that the percentages we've been talking about, like Terra Luna and all the others, those were pure pure stablecoin percentages. And since we are a protocol that creates unrealized wealth, it's a bit of a different thing. Um, and so if people immediately sell everything they get out of a node, then it won't work, right? Then this is impossible. But if we kind of sustain this protocol within ourselves, then it's sustainable, then it's doable because we're reinvesting what we're getting out of it. If that makes sense. I hope it makes sense. Um, right. Um, right? Or am I saying something weird?
I don't know, to me that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Uh,
Good. Good. Like I was like, do I need to uh make it different. But that's also what I explained in one of the first videos. I think it's a first video that I made. By the way, Dave, we need to make more videos. But
Yeah, actually on that, I sort of like I jumped to the side to do like a quick video just on like some of the stuff where work we got coming out and what we have. Sort of inspired by us going under pegs, so I kind of hopped on that. That should be, it's not like informational as much as it is kind of like light hype.
Nice.
But yeah, that should be out soon. And then I got your series 3 that I have to edit still.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right. I think we're through the questions, including the AMA live chat, which has dried up as well. So that brings us to the end of the AMA. Is there anything that either of you still would like to add before we start?
Yeah, I guess Walrus Genesis today. I think.
Yeah.
What's it? What time is it? Like 5 hours or something?
Yeah, I think it's like 2 o'clock or something, or maybe that's when. I know LHB is having like a little Discord party at 2 Eastern, so that's.
So yeah, 6 p.m.
5 hours, yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Right. Yeah,
It is,
that's
the
definitely
pools.
good.
Yeah.
The pools are open if you want to go park your grape there or anything else you have. But
yeah, and I think it runs for I'm pretty sure it runs for 48 hours. So it's like a extended Genesis, unless that was changed. I think it's 48 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Walrus one. And that's also on AVEX, right? So you don't even have to
Yeah.
bridge.
Yeah,
Yes.
nice
And
easy.
we're luckily not going to be pegging to UST anymore, which was originally the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it was a smart move when it was made, but it was events have changed this.
Yeah.
All right. So that's good. And I just want to I always thank the community, but I just would like to thank the community once again because I thought that we've taken a hit, of course, after the whole deep bagging of UST and after the whole Luna thing and everything. We've taken a hit, but the hit was definitely not as extreme as I've seen in different places. So people still have a lot of trust in us, and I think that's just very, very welcome. And I think, well, we're doing our utmost to actually deserve that trust, right? To keep on building and to keep on keeping it stable, or at least, productive and move forward. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a great
Thanks.
effort.
Yeah,
Really,
thanks
like,
everyone for keeping
amazing.
your heads, keeping your cool and not panic selling us as well. Well, we have nothing to do with it. So that's good. Just very happy. Yeah. So that's it. Thank you for listening. And until next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.